are rallying the troops at CPAC in Washington today, but behind the scenes, Republicans on Capitol Hill are telling top presidential candidate Mitt Romney that he needs to stop playing it safe and to step up his game. Joining me now, Wyoming Republican Senator John Barrasso, also a member of the Senate leadership over there on the Republican side. And Senator, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
I gotta go right to it. A colleague of yours, Jon Kyl, also in the leadership, went to CPAC and tweeted this, quote, "This is not exactly Romney mania right now." What does that say that Jon Kyl says the electorate at CPAC, which is ultimately the voters that really do come out and stuff the ballot box for you, are not too enthusiastic about the man that a lot of folks in the establishment feel is the best chance for the GOP to retake the White House?
Well, I'll be speaking there tomorrow, Luke, and I expect to see a lot of enthusiasm for anyone who's running against Barack Obama. The people are there hoping to see the next president of the United States and also the next vice president of the United States. We're going to hear, I believe, sharp messages from all of the candidates who are still in the race for president, and there's going to be incredible excitement, and they'll leave there united to whoever it is who's on the ballot against Barack Obama, and an effort by this president to go way beyond places that government ought to ever go.
But you're in the establishment over there in the Senate and the leadership. Does Romney have it in his gut to be able to relate to these folks who are such activists?
Well, I have a great deal of respect for Governor Romney and his positions and his commitment and things that he's accomplished, as I do for the other candidates as well. I think any of them who wins the nomination is going to do an incredible job presenting conservative views of limited government, limited in size and scope and spending, trying to get government back under control. We have an administration that always wants to spend more and consolidate more power in Washington. You saw this with the recent ruling impacting on the health care law and trampling on the religious rights of people of this country, the very First Amendment to the Constitution. And I believe every one of our candidates is going to do an incredible job of bringing that voice.
Let's talk about Congress. I want to put up a poll right here that shows Congress's approval rating. It's not too good. It polls at about 10% approval. That was a recent Gallup poll. Senator Jim DeMint, a colleague from yours of South Carolina, said the following, and I'd like to play.
I can guarantee you that Coach Tom Coughlin last week did not tell his Giants to go out on the field and to work with those other guys. You know, they weren't cooperating with Tom Brady. Now, the reason for this, and this really is a good analogy, the two teams had different goals. The Patriots were there to beat the Giants. The coaches said the only way we're going to come out of this is to go out and beat the other guys if we're going to get to our goals. Compromise works well in this world when you have shared goals. With your wife, with business colleagues. When you have a shared goal, you can sit down and work together and compromise. But we don't have shared goals with the Democrats.
Senator, a lot of frustration over Capitol Hill is the fact that Republicans and Democrats do not work together at all. That's what the country wants. How can Jim DeMint say this? Is this positive for how you will look in the election in 2012?
Well, I think there's a difference between compromise and seeking common ground, which we did with the free trade agreements. I did with my colleague Mark Udall from Colorado on legislation. Those things seem to not get the attention because the president has said he wants to run against a so-called do-nothing Congress. So when there are accomplishments and common ground is found, it seems that the president wants to ignore that and only look for areas that divide us. We have a country with an incredible debt. We need to get it under control. Horrible spending issues, and there's a lot that we need to do to move this country ahead, but specifically we need to work together to get people back to work in this country.
Another hot-button issue here in Washington, D.C. is President Obama and that administration mandating that religious organizations have to cover contraceptive care. You are a doctor, but you oppose what the president is doing here. A lot of your female colleagues in the Senate say, look, this isn't a political issue. This is a medical issue. As a doctor, why is it not a medical issue for women to have right to contraception to perhaps prevent a birth that could hurt them medically?
This is an issue of who pays and what does government tell people they have to do in a free country and a free society. And government, I believe, doesn't have the right to come into schools, religious institutions, and say you have to supply a service or a procedure or a pill that does something that you believe is immoral. And you know, the Archbishop of the Washington area has said, what are our choices? We can do something we believe is immoral, or we can do something that will be illegal and will get us fined, or we can say we're not going to hire certain people. I mean, all of those things are not the choices that anyone should be faced with it, but it's because the size and the reach and the grab of this administration. Remember, Nancy Pelosi said, first you have to pass it before you get to find out what's in it. The health care law is even less popular now because of these mandates than it was the day it was signed by the president.
Senator Barrasso, we thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, Luke.